wonderful to be here in this fantastic conference venue. I'm really pleased, to be in this very, very dynamic country. Good to see all of the facts and what has been achieved. And I think even more, ladies and gentlemen, to be with a dynamic set of leaders here who have really put Poland on the global map. I believe that what has been accomplished here in Poland in terms of business services, IT services, and putting this as the #1 nearshore destination in Europe, I think is a fantastic accomplishment. I don't live here in Poland, I live in India, and I can tell you, running a global business, looking at Poland from outside in, I can tell you how important Poland is to us. We've been here operating, this is our 20th year. Capgemini has been in Poland for 20 years, and this year we celebrate our 20th anniversary. We started with about, I think, 6 people in 1996. And today we are 6,500 people here in Poland, out of which 1/3 is over 2,000 people are here in Katowice itself. And I can tell you everything that you heard about in the last half an hour around the quality of talent, the people here, the work ethics, everything. I can vouch for it personally that it's an absolutely fantastic experience, and I can see why people come here to Poland, and I can also tell you that we are absolutely committed to make this grow further for us in Capgemini. So a little bit more about the topic that I want to talk about today. Okay, I've called it Goodbye BPO, Hello Business Services. I think that's a bit of a dramatic view on BPO, but my intent is to say that today, when we look at the services world, it's no longer about outsourcing services. Whether you call it about outsourcing to a third party, you talk about outsourcing or setting up a captive center, a shared services center, which is in-house to an organization. I think the key really is, it's not about taking something, cutting a piece off, or extracting a piece of the business, putting it elsewhere, and then executing it. The goal there is to say, what are we doing to the business? What is the value add to the business? How does the business itself improve in its function? You have heard a lot of talk about business outcomes, what's going on there, but I think if I look at the whole thing, it's all about what is the value to the business at the end of the day, and that's really where the whole concept of business services comes from, as opposed to just business process outsourcing. And when I look at what's happening in the industry today, I would say that there's lots of things that are being talked about, and I'm only going to talk about 4 points, which I believe are the most important ones. Okay, #1 for me is what is the integration between IT and operations. Okay, we talk about shared services BPO centers, we talk about shared services IT centers, but what I'm looking at is what is really the point of integration between IT and BPO that will make a difference to the business. So that's #1 for me as I see it. The second one is all about as a stack, as a service models. Okay, so does a business really bother about who runs my BPO, who runs my IT, or are they really concerned about what is the outcome that I get? And therefore, can somebody tell me at the end to end, okay, IT plus ops plus infra plus everything else, what is it that is, and can I get something as a service? I don't care who runs it, just give it to me at a service, at a transaction price. That's #2. Okay, #3 is analytics, which I believe is really changing the world. It's not about looking back, it's about looking ahead. Okay, and #4 is all about that cute little robo that you saw, robotic process automation. I can tell you I love that robo, but I tell you humans any day is my preference. Okay? And there is still a lot for us to do despite those robos. Okay? So those are the 4 things. Okay? IT ops, the integration between IT and ops. The second is around the as a stack services. Third is analytics, and the 4th is automation and robos. Okay, so let's take a little bit, I'm just going to take a few minutes to just give you a view of what I believe is the direction in which this industry is going, and what is it finally at the end that all of us need to do in this. First of all, so I made sure that there's not too much text on that, so that you listen to me and not read the slides there. Okay? Okay. So first, in terms of the IT and ops integration. So traditionally, the whole outsourcing or shared services model was about, okay, here's my finance center, here's my HR center, this is where I do my claims processing, and here is my IT back office, this is where I do all the development work. And always you will find CIOs, business leaders saying that there is very, very tight alignment between business and IT. And then I think about it's not about alignment. Okay? Alignment to me is an extremely soft word. It needs to be really how tightly are these two tied in together and how does that change it. So let me give you a few examples which I think all of you know. So let's take logistics as an example. Okay? One thing is to call a call center and find out where the package that you have dispatched is. Another thing is to do it yourself on the net and then figure out and setting up through a tracking mechanism. So if you look at the call center work that was there before in terms of calling up and finding out something, that doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist anymore because the whole thing has become self-service. You talk about ordering, I guess there are those radio cabs here, but you talk about ordering a cab, you don't have to do it on the phone. You do it with an app on the, you don't do it by phoning somebody, you do it by using an app. So that whole service has vanished. So there is a lot of disintermediation of services, of business processes that are happening because of how you use digital technology out there. Okay, look at bank forms. I mean, the whole concept of data entry, in my view, and setting up a process and setting up nearshore, offshore centers to do data entry type of work is grossly outdated. The whole concept is you shift the work to the customer. You shift the work to somebody who can do it better themselves. So rather than they do it and then you process at the back end what they have done, the objective is to push it to the customer. So is that a good thing to do? Are customers thinking that, oh my God, these people are not doing their work, they're passing it on to me, they're making me do my work? I don't think so. I think they would be delighted to get the control in their hands. So really, the whole idea of digital and IT and their impact on business processes is all about giving control to the customers, giving self-help to the customer, giving satisfaction to the customer. And then that process, we are really changing the way or the definition of what a business process is. Finance centers. Why do we bother with paper invoices and then key them in and then process them and then talk about how much time it takes to process an invoice? What about e-invoicing? What about EDI? Simple things. It's very elementary, but I still see customers who are, doing paper invoices and, huge amounts of workload that has come to that. So that was my number one point, that I think the whole concept of what are business processes and how that needs to change is really changing in a different direction thanks to the help of technology. Second point, okay, if you see as a service, I don't know how many of you are from IT versus the business side of it, okay? You look at you look at organizations which have multiple ERP systems, and then we spend hours trying to reconcile them, and then we spend hours trying to get them all together into a coherent one. And then you look at, are there options outside? And then you find that, a lot of those investments made 20, 25 years ago are reasonably outdated, are not fit for purpose anymore. And you start to think, oh my God, do I have to do another ERP project for another 5 years? I mean, is that this way? Nobody does a project anymore for 5 years, I can guarantee you that. Okay? I think it's all about speed, it's all about agility, and this is really where customers are starting to say, what is the stack solution? Okay? How do I use the cloud better? How do I use, these as a service models together, which means that I don't invest in infrastructure, I don't invest in technology, somebody else does that. All that I'm doing is using that, and I will pay per transaction. But I admit it's not an option for those organizations which are heavily invested already into these platforms and then still have some time to go in terms of depreciating them. But truly, it is definitely an option where the systems that are there are not fit for purpose anymore, or they are end of life. And I can tell you, today it's not yet there. but I can already see at least about 5 to 10% of customers who are going in the direction of saying, give me as a service, give me the whole stack, give me the infrastructure, give me the apps, give me the business process, and then just charge me for the transaction, and that's it. Okay, and that's really what we got to be ready for, and to take a look at as service centers, as third-party providers, what does this mean to us and how do we shape it? Point number 3, okay, is all about then analytics. Okay, so it to me it really is the value add and the top end of what one can achieve using everything that we do. So today our focus largely is on running an operation and maintaining systems and running process operations. But when then you start to take a different look at it, and then you say that, hey, look, you know, I'm all my analytics, everything that I do is about how good it was or how bad it was before. How are the service levels? How are the operations? Did I meet it? Did I not meet it? Who cares about analyzing the past? Of course, it's important. Okay, I'm not saying you don't care about it, but more important is to say, okay, all that happened, but based on that, can I say what will happen in the future? Okay. There are, just 2 weeks ago, one of the customers came to me and said, look, I like all this stuff about, the speed at which you're processing invoices and this and that and how good the collections are. But he said, can you tell me what my working capital requirements are for the next 12 months based on what you have seen in the past? To me, that is analytics. And that's really where you start using the power of technology and business process to start making an impact on the organization and say, hey, look, based on everything that I do in the processes, I can now tell you how to reduce your inventory costs by X. I can tell you how to reduce your working capital needs by so much, because I know on what is coming and what is going, and I can actually predict this. And I can also tell you where to control it so that those your business KPIs are improving. Okay, that's analytics for us. And finally, I think what we all love, it's not about labor arbitrage anymore. It's all about robotic process automation, or RPA as it is called. I'll tell you one thing, there's a lot of talk about RPA, what happens to jobs and so on. I'm convinced nothing happens to the jobs. Okay? The jobs are there, and I think we will need more people. They just will do slightly different things. But to me, this is reality. Today, when we run processes, we talk about, 30%? Let's improve productivity by 30%. Let's improve it by 35%. I can tell you, today, if you're not doing 60% productivity improvement, there's a problem. Okay? Easily, you got to be doing 60% and above in order to be making an impact. Okay? And I've seen many different product companies. I've seen many different ways in which can be done. I'm not saying we know exactly how to do it today, but in the next 2 years, I can tell you somebody will come next year and say even 60% is low. Because that's really where it is. Whatever you're doing today, you can do it 60% faster, 60% with 60% less effort. Okay, and that's really what we got to work towards, and that's where robos help. But just a word of caution: I don't think it's really about just taking anything that you do, putting a robo there, and then he will solve all the problems. Sorry. I don't think those self-thinking robos are still here, not to the extent that we like. We still have to take each little task and figure out how the manual work can be taken out and something else can be put in. I can tell you it's a huge, huge effort to make that work, but that is the future. Okay. So what does this mean in terms of work location? So today we talk about, okay, let's send work to Malaysia, let's send work to Brazil, let's send work to Poland. If you have a robo, where do you send the work? I think we all start to thinking about what I would call as not near shore, not offshore, not onshore, but we got to think about what are these virtual delivery centers. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine a room full of 100 robos working away? Who cares which location they are? Okay, I think we'll soon have the concept of offshore, near shore, onshore, and also you'll have the virtual shore. It doesn't matter, but that's a reality. Okay. And you can put these in any place, any country, so you can tell people, okay, I'm shifting work to a shared services center. Where is it? It's in the cloud. Don't worry. Okay. Okay, and we got to start preparing for that one as to how do you build these virtual delivery centers. Does it matter? Is it in Poland? Is it in India? Is it in China? No, it's out there. It's in the cloud, and it doesn't matter. But that's again another reality that we'll have to contend with and then prepare for. So, what does it mean finally to for the industry, for these types of services? So we're really now talking about not location specific, but anytime, anywhere delivery. Okay, the shore is not important, the location is not important, but the speed at which you move is important, and the ability to deliver value to the business. Okay, not processing efficiency. It's not only more about how agile you are, how fast you process, what's your price per transaction, but what is the ultimate impact that you make on the business. As I said about, can I save the company 2% of its working capital needs? Can I save the company 5% of its inventory costs? That's the impact really that we got to start to think about. So I do believe that with all of these factors, whether you look at the productivity drivers, the robotic process automation, the impact of the cloud and what it can do to as a service models, the impact of technology and digital, which can really change, where you really start to question what is a process. Okay. And then how do I redefine the process? Does the process as we know it exist anymore? I do think that, therefore, based on all of this, there is a definite disruption to the model that we are talking about. And I do believe that each of us need to start focusing on how do we build the capability towards transforming. So while we talk about excellence centers, I do think that there's a need for everyone in this room to start to think about how do I transform the process? How do I transform the business that I have in? How can my shared services center operate differently? How can my, as a third-party provider, how do I offer services differently? And what is the level of transformation that I can add? So the earlier speaker talked about it's a lot of it is about leadership. It's about building the right talent. It's about getting the right people who can do this level of transformation. And I think it's also about benchmarking with the best in class. Okay, there are several that are, as I said, I mean, today if you talk to any of the large consultancy firms, strategy consultancy firms, they will tell you that I think they will tell you 80% productivity. Okay, I'm being conservative when I talk to them when I say 60%. So I do think that there is a direction out there, and everyone needs to benchmark themselves against what is the best in class and how does one move towards that. And finally, just to conclude, it's a difficult change, but I think that there is no option currently for the industry to remain where it is. And I wish you all the best of luck in terms of adapting to this changed environment and making a big success out of it for yourselves, for your organizations, and for the future of services in Poland. Thank you very much.